Here.
Burdick.
Here.
Hoffman.
Present.
Johnson.
Here.
Ibach.
Here.
Minor.
Here.
Sommer.
Present.
Mayor Gross.
Here.
City Manager Nelson.
Here.
City Attorney Denner.
Here. You have in your packet the minutes of the regular meeting of April 10th, the special meeting of April 8th, and the special meeting of April 17th. What is your pleasure?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions, corrections, or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. We have two proclamations, one of which is for Arbor Day, where we, the City Commission, urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day. And the second proclamation is for Bike Month. May is Bike Month, and we urge people to promote bike tourism and greater awareness of bike operation and safety education. May of 2000, Bike Month in Yankton. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the Commission. On top of your microphone here, you have a Wi-Fi password. If you want to use that, is it the? Did we determine if it was the Netgear 4 or no? Yes. It's the Guest. Artec Guest Network. So there's your password. If you're not going to use it, just tuck it in your drawer there, so you have it for later. We have citywide cleanup numbers in your packet. We have comparisons from year to year. This year, our tonnage was really close to last year. I think last year was 347 tons of material, and this year was 373 tons. So real close, but citywide cleanup has been completed. So there's more information in your packet about that. Also, you received today the sales tax receipts or information from Finance Office. It looks like for the end of March, for our sales tax in March, we were down 6.31%, which leaves us for the year down negative 1.5%. And as you know, we budgeted a 2% increase. So there's a lot of the year left, but I think it's probably smart that we were moving forward with contingency budget planning and those types of things. So if folks are interested, we can talk more about those numbers. The triple B was down 3.37. So for the year, and for the year it's down 3.37. For the month it was down 13.78%. So doesn't look great, but hopefully April will turn around and look a little better. We'll just have to see. If there's no questions for me, I'll let you all get to your business.
Any questions for the City Manager? Seeing none, I'll call for public appearances. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to the Commission but is not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. We have several items on the consent agenda. First is consideration of Memorandum 17-82, recommending approval of the application from Habitat for Humanity for a special dance license on June 8th. We will establish May 8th as the date for a public hearing on the request for a special events retail malt beverage and special retail wine dealer's license for Mount Marty College for June 24th. We also establish May 8th as the date for the public hearing on the request for a special events liquor license for July 21 to 22, which is Rock and Rumble, the block of 3rd Street between Douglas and Capitol. The fourth item is a consideration of Memorandum 17-85, recommending approval for the application of Onward Yankton for a transient merchant license from May to October of 2017. The fifth item is a consideration of Memorandum 17-79, recommending approval of the applications from Harvest Halloween for both a transient merchant license, October 27th, 28th, and a special events dance license for October 28th of 2017. And the last item is consideration of Memorandum 17-90, recommending approval for the application for Rock and Rumble for a transient merchant's license in July and a special events dance license July 21 to July 22 of 2017. What is your pleasure?
Move we approve the consent items.
Second. Motion is second. Any questions or discussion? Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Consent agenda passes. Under old business, we have one item, consideration of memorandum 17-80 regarding the request for a special retail on-sale liquor license for one day, May 5th, from the Core of Discovery Welcome Center. Katie Meyer, Executive Director, Lewis and Clark Theater Company, making the request. What is your pleasure?
We'll move the memorandum.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or discussion? Does anyone in the audience care to speak to the issue? Seeing none, roll call.
Minor,
Aye.
Sommer,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Purdy.
Aye.
Hoffner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Mybom,
Aye.
Mayor Gross.
Aye, motion carries. Under new business, item number 1, request for camping to be held in Riverside Park, memorandum 17-77. This would be during the kayak event on May 26th. What is your pleasure?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or discussion? Anyone in the audience care to speak to the issue?
I actually have a question. Sorry, when is construction beginning on the water plant?
Well, we will be breaking ground probably towards the middle or end of May, but if, I think it'll be fenced off well, you know, and that occurs quite a distance away, but by that time, I don't think it will have major equipment down there or anything like that, so we'll make sure that.
It reads that we've been in contact with Kyle Goodmanson and Jarrett Beese, and I'm assuming you guys are communicating. I know it's going to be a mess down
Yeah,
there.
we're letting everybody know that has events down there, what the plan is and program is, and they'll have to steer clear of that area. So.
Thank you for communicating that.
Any other questions, comments? Anyone in the audience care to speak to the issue? Seeing none, roll call.
Sommer,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Purdy.
Aye.
Hoffner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Mybom,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Mayor Gross.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 2, bid award for a 14-foot dump truck, memorandum 17-86. What is your pleasure?
Move we approve the purchase of the 14-foot dump box.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Anyone in the audience care to speak to the issue? Seeing none, roll call.
Sarda,
Aye.
Purdy,
Aye.
Hoffner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Mybom,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Sommer,
Aye.
Mayor Gross.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 3, Harvest Halloween Festival request for funding. Consideration of memorandum 17-78 regarding Harvest Halloween Festival request for hand washing station and portable toilets and production staging and event planning. What is your pleasure? Or would you prefer to discuss this one first?
I'd like to hear a little discussion first.
Okay. Would you care to address the commission? And for the home audience, please identify yourselves.
Good evening, members of the commission, Mayor Gross, thank you. My name is Tara Gill. I'm speaking on behalf of Harvest Halloween. Just wanted to reiterate how important this activity is for Yankton. It is our 4th year, and at this time we gave some extra information to you, just kind of a easier breakout of what we're looking at, and give you the opportunity to ask us any financial questions that you'd like to.
Okay, that was the handout that is at the desk, or was at the desk.
My question, or maybe it's a statement, it's the same kind of thing that we've been talking about when Ribfest, we were talking about Ribfest. At some point, you know, and I don't know if that can start to be a policy or something we can do with fund requests for events, but some kind of a sustainability plan. It's just that, especially, you know, in a year like this year where we're way down in sales tax numbers and stuff like that, it gets harder and harder to fund stuff like this. Eventually, these privately put on events should be able to sustain themselves. So we as a commission have to decide at what point do we stop funding something, but without a plan, it's a great event. I take my kids to it every year, but I'd almost like to see some kind of a sustainability plan with event requests. If that's a possibility, something we can work on going forward.
The one thing that we have started in the process of is making it a nonprofit organization to where it's not just a privately funded entity or event. We're kind of comprised of a board and starting to make a mission statement, starting to make goals of what we want. I'm going to let Kathy speak a little bit more on the financial aspect of what she thinks as well.
Kathy Clatworthy. I started Harvest Halloween 3 years ago, and I think we've achieved, quite a bit of success in those 3 years, and of course with the help and the partnership with the city. Thank you so much. We've been working on the conversion of the LLC to a nonprofit, which we will see, more benefit in terms of grants that we can apply for, and then there are other money savings, with the nonprofit status. Also, we'll have more manpower with our board of directors, which we have 8 at the moment with a goal of 9. And I think that this conversion will make a big difference, for the event going forward. This year is a transition year, however, so we are asking for similar funding that we did last year.
Any other questions?
One other one. If I recall right, last year you had a listing of different events or different things that you're doing. Are we looking at the same sort of thing as you did last year, or do you got some new stuff that you're planning?
We had 16 activities, of which most are free activities. We did generate ourselves from some of them over $11,000 ourselves, with a total income of over $15,000 for the event, and we did raise $11,000 ourselves, and we plan on adding 2 additional things this year that will help us. One of them was the haunted depot, or the spook house, which was a huge success, and we had well over 300 children and families go through that, and we wanted to make a free will donation this year, and that would help the festival. But we are working very diligently to accumulate more sponsors and more revenue generating activities, and fundraising. We raised, I think, a significant amount of money last year, and very proud that we kept the festival in the black, even though we were working with 20% less revenue than the previous year. I think we did pretty well, so we'll keep working that way.
And a lot of the activities that we've had in the last 3 years, they've worked out really well. There might have been a couple that we've tweaked and so forth, they've gotten rid of, but as far as keeping the same things because they are being successful, we're continually doing that.
Amy, question on our budget process. When is our next budget gathering for the commission?
June 19th, so we'll talk about our CIP and then our BBB funding on the 19th.
Yes, my thought is it's, I think, pretty summed up pretty well on what a recommendation by the city, and I'd like to make a motion to go that route. With that total is $1,419, and that includes the porta potties, the in-kind service for 450 street cleanup, and $46.50 for the roll-off transfer station. So I'd approve that, recommend that the city do that, given our BBB situation.
I would second that.
I think the decision's going to be made for us at this point in the year. Maybe it's bad timing you have to approach now, but 1 quarter into the year, we're about 4% down on what our planned budget was, so we have to start going along on something soon. And maybe you can revisit this in time to do more help for them June. But as of tonight, I'm seconding Commissioner Sarda's request for comment.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Does anyone in the audience care to speak to the motion?
I guess I would just like to reiterate, if you look on that second page of the reasons why we think the city should be in sponsor, being a partner with the event, you know, within Yankton, we really want to share Yankton's identity and show that how the city, as well as other events, can help promote each other. It helps bring local talents in, it helps bring people here. It is really a collaboration between events and between the city. It definitely gives a value and a positive look for the city. You know, I think down the line, we really are eventually going to be sustainable. We really would like to see this event be as fabulous as Riverboat Days or Ribfest and so forth. And again, for the last 3 years, it's basically been 2 people really spearheading this, and we now have this vision of actually having a board. And to really consider that, it really, I think, is a good thing for Yankton, and I think it would be really helpful to have the city back us in that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience care to speak to this? If there's no more discussion, then roll call.
Purdy,
Aye.
Hoffner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Mybom,
No.
Minor,
Aye.
Sommer,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Mayor Gross.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 2, consideration of memorandum 17-89 and resolution 1711 regarding the request by Harvest Halloween for special events parking ordinance 933 to be in place during the event. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Oh, second.
Motion is second. Any questions or discussion? Anyone in the audience care to speak to the issue? Seeing none, roll call.
Hoffner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Mybom,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Sommer,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Purdy,
Aye.
Mayor Gross.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 5, consideration of memorandum 17-83 and resolution 17-13 regarding a request by Rock and Rumble for a special events parking ordinance to be in place during the Rumble event and request for suspension of alcoholic consumption. What is your pleasure?
Move the memorandum.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions for staff or discussion? Anyone in the audience care to speak to the issue? Please identify yourself for the home audience.
Jeff Dayhuff, Rock and Rumble last year. We're going to do basically the same thing we did last year with some adjustments on some of the events, but we have the same amount of bands. It's going to be a free concert. We kind of got hit last year by over 100-degree heat index, so it was a tough year last year, although we still were able to fund ourselves. I mean, we're not asking for any money, but we gave $3,000 to local charities as well. So it's a good event. Hopefully we'll have some better weather this year. Our local sponsors here did a good job, and our sales were pretty good considering the weather and everything. So it's basically going to be the same deal as last year. Just a few changes. We're going to leave Douglas open instead of try to close that. And also Capitol open. We're going to move the band in from Capitol and 3rd Street inside the stop sign so we don't have to close Capitol on 3rd Street. So just a couple little things right there, but I should have a complete layout for all the events and everything by the next meeting here, so when you actually vote on it.
I think we're
Any
going to
other
actually
questions?
vote on it tonight. But
Oh, you vote on that one? Okay.
Just a comment. Thank you, Jeff, for your efforts.
Absolutely.
I think I see Harvest Halloween, Ribfest, all these great events, and they're expanding and they're doing well, and hopefully we can be good partners, and thanks.
Well, it's the same thing that they were saying. I think it's hopefully it'll build into something big enough to be like the success that Riverboat Days has been, and Ribfest and everything else. The more events we have like that, the better for everybody. Thanks.
Anyone else in the audience care to speak to the issue? No further discussion, roll call.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Sommer.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Rudy.
Aye.
Hoffner.
Aye.
Mayor Gross.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 6 is a request to close Meridian Bridge for the Rock and Rumble Parade, Memorandum 17-84. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or discussion? Anyone in the audience care to speak to that issue? Seeing none, roll call.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Sommer.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Rudy.
Aye.
Hoffner.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Gross.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 7 is consideration of Memorandum 17-88 and Resolution 17-12 regarding a request by the Meridian District for Special Events Parking Ordinance 933 to be in place from May through October on Thursday nights and suspension of alcohol consumption. It's a special events parking request. What is your pleasure?
I'll move the memorandum.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Any questions or discussion?
I don't have any questions, of course. I just want the commission to know that there is a request for consideration of a suspension of alcohol consumption, or what we call open container. And that event's going to start out without that being the case, and seeing how traffic builds and things like that. So we just wanted to show you on the map where that would be. And Molly's working with the downtown businesses, and we're going to see if it builds. It's something that I actually have the ability to grant, but we wanted to show you the location. So they're not going to start out that way, but when the bar owners, and if the traffic seems like that would be a good idea, then we'll work through that. And I have talked with the chief of police and other public safety about that as well. So just bringing that to your attention.
And the property owners are aware of this regular closure?
Property owners are aware of the closure. Molly and I both spoke with Kim Larson. Initially, that street closure was for the entire street, but we wanted to make sure that folks had access to the two retail stores, Larson Carpets, and then I think Treasures, there on the corner, so they'll still have access there. So it's just that one portion of the street.
Can you tell us what the evening would be, what a typical evening would be like when they're closed?
To go to them, yeah. We're live streaming.
So Molly Gray with the Meridian District. The goal for Thursday nights is to basically conduct the farmers market and have retail stay open a little bit later than what they are today. So it'd be dedicated to getting traffic to come downtown. So the farmers market would happen, and then retail businesses would stay open later. And then obviously Music of the Meridian starts on July 6th. So there is a partnership between Brittany and I that we're working together to try to draw more traffic down here and direct people to walk around and shop and be entertained, I guess. So I have talked to Schramm, Stockwell, Cena, as well as Kim, and then also Marlowe's office, because I know that they do park there. We won't be blocking off any sort of alleyway or anything like that, so there will be access to parking outside of the retail businesses like Larson's Carpet and so forth. So.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me.
Sure.
I have a question. Has there been any communication with Julie Fisher in regards to the show and shine they have on every other Thursday? It seems to me there was some concern last year, but it just appears to me that it'd be a win-win for all to have that event as well. I don't know if that's been in contact.
Shoe and Shine?
With their car,
Oh, yes. So anything that happens on Thursday nights, it's definitely there's going to be a partnership. So I think it's the car show is what she does, which is once a Thursday or one Thursday each month or something like that, I think is how it goes.
Every other week, I think.
Something like that. So there is already discussion, and that is in the works. So,
Thanks.
yep.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else in the audience care to speak to the issue?
I'm just curious, so this proposed open container area just seems pretty large to me. I'm just curious about history here in our city. Is this the largest it has ever been?
Largest since I've been here. How we came up with it was looking to include all the retailers that were planning to stay open, looking to include as many of our bars and restaurants in the downtown, knowing that last year when we had folks at Music at the Meridian, they kind of like to wander from the downtown as well as then wander to our establishments in the downtown following the music performance, and some of them had, I guess, libations with them. We cannot include all of our establishments because we had some question as to whether or not I have the authority to recommend that on a state highway and so forth and Broadway. We leave out a couple, but probably as a public safety, that's probably a good measure anyway. But that's where we came down with it, so that you don't have to set your beer bottle down or your plastic or aluminum cup or whatever we're going to have if they choose to have an open container down in front of the bar. If you want to go look at shoes at Boston Boots to Shoes, so we had to stretch it out a little bit to include everybody. Again, Molly hasn't totally worked through all the logistics on that. She's just looking for it to be an opportunity if it's deemed appropriate and if the bar owners think that they want to participate and all those types of things.
Other questions?
Jeff Dahuff again. The liability, and I guess Ross, we went back and forth on this. If somebody walks out of my bar with a drink, and I don't know if you've talked about this, I've got to buy liability for Rock and Rumble. Is that going to be covered by the city if something happens, somebody steps off a curb, or have you addressed that, or?
We haven't talked in any great degree about
Okay,
the
that's
potential
one
for
of the things
liability
that
on this.
because
but in this case, we're not going to be providing the alcohol. We're just going to be letting the public have open containers.
Right.
So it's a little bit different.
A little different than the Rock and Rumble
than
event?
the Rock and
Okay.
Rumble, but that's probably something we're going to have to address moving forward. Like Amy said, we're not going to necessarily start out right away in May allowing this. This is going to coincide presumably with the Thursday night events that begin in June. June, is that when they?
I'm all for
Okay.
this. I'm not
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to put any kind of wet blanket on it or anything like that, but I know that we spent a lot of time working on it for that, so just
And that
want to
is
make sure that if somebody does walk out of the bar with one of my drinks, then somebody's got it covered.
That is
or if
something-
I need to get extra insurance for it. So.
That is something that Onward is in contact, or will be in contact shortly with their in-house attorney to make sure that that's covered also.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So if we as a commission choose to not allow open container in this area, you actually, as our city manager, you could, at your discretion, 72 hours before the Thursday night, be working with Molly to decide at that time whether or not that Thursday night would warrant this open container arrangement for the downtown area.
I could do that, but I think it would be career limiting not to follow the commission's direction. So if you all want to direct me that not to allow that, then that's the end of the conversation. We just wanted to make you aware of it, and if somebody said absolutely not, this is, if the consensus was this is too big of an area and this is way too much, then I would, tell Molly, no, we're not gonna go forward with that.
So I don't have an opinion quite yet, other than this just seems like a very large area, and it would seem to make sense to me that you start smaller and maybe work your way out, rather than be so big all at once. And I'm sure there's, like I said, there's discretion involved here, I understand, but it just seems really large.
And
a
as a-
large area for open container.
As a point of clarification too, her ability to permit is still confined by South Dakota law, meaning that it would only be for the night of the events. It couldn't last longer than a 24-hour period, and the open container rules have to end the same time the bars must stop serving alcohol.
and
So
we're
they
look-
would, open container rules would
Yeah.
shut off at 2 a.m. along with.
And we were looking at a more limited time, like 4 to 9 or something like that. But, so it became a question of, including all the folks that want to participate, which is great to have a lot of folks that want to participate, and to start and stop and not make it contiguous didn't seem to make sense. I did speak with the police department, talked with a couple of sergeants, and leadership in the police department who indicated, we could have a problem with somebody walking outside those boundaries, but we have folks now that, try to take a road cup, for lack of a better terminology, and they didn't foresee it those times during the evening in the middle of the week to be a big problem, just that they're made sure they're communicated with so they know what the boundaries are if we should move forward with something like that. And then having the ability, of course, too, if there's problems, to be able to say, we're not going to continue this, but they didn't foresee it as a major issue, and expect, just a lot, not like a street dance type of people. This will be people shopping or walking down to listen to a couple hours of music and having a more, I guess, quiet evening than like a street dance type event. But if the commission is feeling like, wow, this is absolutely something we wouldn't want to go forward with, then we want to know that too.
I appreciate staff being open-minded and willing to experiment to create an event that is unique and fun for people. Of course, there are some challenges, and it may prove to not be something we want to continue to do, but I think it's worth at least trying. I think it has worth.
I have a point of clarification when I look at the map. And again, I'm not opposed to the idea either, but all of the little yellow streets that are lit up, the bridge is not included. Is the bridge a different entity?
Of course, you would ask that the night that Todd and Dave Mingo aren't here, but I think this is how it goes. I believe that we do not allow alcohol on the bridge because there's only a certain segment that's actually included in the city of Yankton parks. And we do allow alcohol in the parks, but I think there's a little, you go about, I don't know, maybe 25, 50 feet out, and that's actually considered Nebraska. So the riparian rights with the alcohol don't extend there. So now we have allowed for special events on the lower deck of the bridge. So if you want to get really technical, maybe we need to have our hands slapped a little bit for like Meridian en Blanc. But I think it's something different when you have an event established there and you have some perimeters. And those are ticketed guests than when you just allow, back and forth.
I'm just trying to imagine enforcement and, do you stand at the bottom of the bridge? Do you stand 50 feet onto the bridge?
Right, but we allow it now, so
Sure.
alcohol in the park now, so they.
So that counts as part of the park?
Well,
bridge.
Yes,
Sorry, I'm easily confused.
yes, it does.
Okay.
However, not the entire portion of the bridge is
Which is why the whole
in
thing then is not lit up
the
yellow.
city. Right.
Got it.
Other questions, discussion?
I'll certainly let the commission know as we move forward about the open container, and so folks can weigh in if they have more concern or comment, and we can talk about that again.
There is no, anyone in the audience? I think I've asked, but anyone else in the audience? There's no further discussion, roll call.
Minor.
Aye.
Sommer.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Burdick.
Abstain?
Hoffner.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Mayor Gross.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 8, construction service agreement with HDR for water purification facility. Consideration of memorandum 17-87 regarding construction services agreement for the water purification facility. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or discussion? Kyle
Yes.
is waiting.
Kyle, you know I would ask this again. Give me a comparison on the costs. Are we in line, or are we getting a good deal, or tell us, enlighten us?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners. If you look at the contract you have in front of you, a portion of it is actually for some of the design work that we had to do to get to a position where we could completely vacate the 1929 facility. So the final portion ends up being the construction management is roughly about 2.6 million, a little bit more than that. That puts us at about 7.7% for the total project, of 7.7% of the total project, which is in an industry standard. So good deal, bad deal, we won't know until we're done, but it's within the industry standard. So.
Other questions for Kyle? Anyone in the audience care to speak to the issue? Seeing none, roll call.
Sommer.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Burdick.
Aye.
Hoffner.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Mayor Gross.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 9 is final payment and acceptance for the Collector Well project, consideration of memorandum 17-92. What is your pleasure?
I move that we authorize the check to Wellful Construction.
Second.
We have motion is second. Any questions or discussion? Does anyone in the audience care to speak to the issue? Seeing none, roll call.
Sarda.
Aye.
Burdick.
Aye.
Hoffner.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Sommer.
Aye.
Mayor Gross.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 10, change order number 1 for the Force Main project, consideration of memorandum 17-93. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or discussion? Anyone in the audience care to speak to the issue? Seeing none, roll call.
Burdick.
Aye.
Hoffner.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Sommer.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Mayor Gross.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 11, Sidewalk Cafe license for Rounding Third, consideration of memorandum 17-91. This would be at 304 East 3rd and 309 Cedar Street. What is your pleasure?
Move the memorandum.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or discussion? Anyone in the audience care to speak to the issue? Seeing none, roll call.
Hoffner.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Sommer.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Burdick.
Aye.
Mayor Gross.
Aye, motion carries. That is the end of our regular session. Entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss legal matters under South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. We'll adjourn into executive session. Thank you. How are you?